a week out. It's Friday, and we're shooting not this Monday, but the following Monday. Mickey hasn't come into town yet. I've only sat down with the guy once. He's called me and texted me from Russia. He took it upon himself to fly to Russia and go to a prison, which I thought showed some commitment. He keeps faxing me lines that he wants to translate into Russian that he wants to say to his cockatoo. And I say, that's your prerogative. All of my time is being monopolized by the actors, the rehearsal process, and refining the script for these performers. And they have tremendous insight because there's nobody who's better at speaking on behalf of the logic of the character than an actor, a good actor who's smart. So I'm really trying to soak up that insight and incorporate it into the script, and then also trying to stay loose enough to be open to new ideas that come to me at 4 in the morning. So it's a very interesting combo of people. I can't believe the cast we have. I mean, any one of these people could star in their own film, and have, between Scarlett and Sam Rockwell and Gwyneth and Mickey, and of course Robert and Don Cheadle. We're in writing sessions trying to pull this script together. It always feels like you're burning the candle at both ends. I'm really, really excited about what's going to happen. First time around, we wanted to show people that their superhero was in good hands, and we took it seriously, and we were paying attention to the source material. And what we do in this one, for starters, is Tony's on a bad road. His life was too busy to start with, and then he said, I'm Iron Man. So in the script, we explore what happened over the last 6 months.
He has this hole in his chest, and this sort of dilemma that is really a dilemma of mortality after he's made this sort of vow or promise to be Iron Man.
In the first movie, we made it very clear that this is a metaphor for his heart, for what's inside him as well as the armored exterior. And we continue that metaphor in the sequel.
When he made these RTs, they had enough power to power something very large for a short amount of time or something very small for a longer amount of time. So really the question was, how many more licks can his ticker take?
How about the high-tech crossword puzzle on your neck?
Road rash.
As things aren't working out for him, it begins to go on the fritz. He begins to notice that his body's reacting in a strange way to what essentially is implanted in his chest.
Tony, both in his suit and in his goings-on with Pepper, he's going to have to figure out something that lasts a little bit longer. And she says he's in process of always inventing and trying to figure out a way to improve his system.
The Mark III we saw him wearing at the end of the first one, and then we figured that he wanted another version, so we have the Mark IV, which is similar, but slightly different in design.
He slightly adapted the Mark III from the end of the first film. It's the Mark IV, still the iconic circle RT, but if you look at it, you compare it side by side, it's sleeker, it fits better, but it is iconically and unquestionably Iron Man. It's hard to separate Tony from his tech. It's one. We're going to explore these emotional changes that he's undergoing, this connection to his father, to his past, his relationship with Pepper, and of course overcoming this technical challenge and how they sort of merge into one.
We just need to recharge our batteries and figure it all out.
Not everybody runs on batteries, Tony.
We started looking at the Crimson Dynamo backstory and kind of playing with some other characters. We really liked Whiplash, and Ryan Meinerding, who is one of the most talented concept artists in the entire industry. We thought that Ryan Meinerding doing a Whiplash costume, built in a cave with a box of scraps, could be really cool.
At the beginning of this process, when we started with Whiplash, he was actually going to be one of a whole cast of villains. So, based on sort of lesser villains in the Iron Man universe. So when I designed him, I didn't know that he was actually going to be the main villain. This is sort of where we started with Whiplash. He was sort of implanting himself with pins. At that point, I think his RT was actually going to be an internal thing. That was one concept, and then another concept was to sort of take it so it was a little more external. It looked a little bit higher tech, and all of the whip mechanisms were external. This was sort of like the final iteration of that beginning phase where it was really adding a lot of exoskeletal stuff to the suit.
One keyframe can define a whole sequence. Then we start building storyboards and we start writing script pages, but if there's an idea for a moment that John can communicate to Ryan can put down on paper, and just inspire everybody.
We didn't want it to be so overwhelming that you couldn't see the person underneath it, and when Mickey ended up getting cast, it made a lot of sense to show as much of him as possible. Trying to find a way to add some sort of realism to the character. I think that's primarily what my job is. We'd always sort of thought that he was going to be this sort of badass Russian prisoner. That's the archetype, if you will, that I went for in the first drawings. When you found out that it was going to be Mickey, it was definitely, you know, it added a lot to the design, and I ended up doing a sketch of him as that character, and I think it added a whole new, like, really, you know, gritty, dark dimension to it. That's great.
You know, the keyframes are important too, because I'm gonna have Mickey in here today, and this is gonna mean a lot more than the pages. Yeah. You know, this is gonna be a good, as an actor, I get that. Fortunately, I have a really good team of people, and we've divided the work well, and I feel like I've delegated properly, and I have a lot of good people working on the visual effects side of things, and we're really a step ahead as far as motion capture and doing previs based on performance by stunt people, and Maddie's in the volume operating the camera. So our previs isn't just coming out of a previs department of animators and basically, you know, techs that are doing the job of the editor, the stunt coordinator, and the cinematographer. We're actually engaging all those people in that process. So my hope is that we're actually a leg up on that work. And I'm learning a lot from the animation model that as it informs the animated elements of this film. And my job has been to keep that consistent with what we're doing in the script and with the actors.
With this much action and this much visual effects, storyboards pale in comparison to what previs can do. Ultimately, that was just a template. It was sort of an example of a vibe.
It's very dynamically happening right next to the camera. The explosion's going to be whiting out the camera. It's going to be disappearing. It seems, yeah, he should be.
Choose your angles in our office.
This time around, we get to unveil the gun-riddled version of Iron Man that is War Machine.
The War Machine, the design is awesome. It is absolutely fantastic.
We developed a style for the suits in the first film. We wanted to continue that. And as the War Machine is built on the base of the Mark II, that was our starting point.
The design of the suits works, we work hand in hand with Ryan Meinerding. You know, it's really like John works for months with his camp on looks, then we kind of work with them on fusing those together.
How bulky we could get, how many weapons we could fit on it and still have it look like a guy could walk around in it, like he would have the mobility that an Iron Man character needs. Those were the challenges. But when you have legacy effects bringing this to life for us, it's I mean, you know, it's a huge pleasure to see it come together.
The thing about a studio like ours, whether it's Stan Winston's studio then or Legacy Effects now, it's a core group of absolute comic book, I hate to use the word, let's call them fans.
Shane will sit down and just break everything down. Once they have approved drawings and designs of what they want, then we build a 3D model in the computer. Once they approve the 3D model, then we will grow a maquette so they can see it in full form. Because sometimes, you know, when you see it in the computer, it's, you know, it just isn't quite there until you can see it in that true 3 dimension, you know, standing in front of you.
The main difference, I think, and hopefully, you know, the fans aren't upset about this one, is we don't have the exposed missile pod at all times. That was one of the things that the Marvel guys definitely wanted to try and work in. But the fact of having like 2 big things on either side of a head makes, you know, shooting him a little bit difficult.
You know, this is going to be a problem, or just something that we have to work out, is the fact that these large bullet case missile cases are right there. You a little bit more room, but you're gonna probably pitch your body a little bit. Yeah. The only solution is to take this plane and kind of jockey it out a little bit.
We found ways of trying to actually work. This isn't the final design for this, but the missile pod actually, there's a missile pod in each one of these shoulder straps.
What we're doing behind me here is putting together the Mark II autopsy scene for Edwards Air Force Base. It shoots in about a week and a half or 2 weeks. From our molds from the original show, we've recast pieces and have them all, this is all nickel plating, real metal nickel plating. We mocked this up at first, and John went through and decided what areas he'd really like to see broken apart that would work for the story in his mind. But you can see down in here, we'd never really seen the inside of the Mark II. So we're recreating it for the scenes. We were fashioning the interior. He'll pull this chest piece off. We added lead into this chest piece to give it some more weight because these are just all fiberglass parts. The suit that we're going to do for Dawn is a lot of the same components, and but we'll mostly just use the upper part of it.
This time around, the stipulation from the director, take what we learned, modify it, make it better.
They made the suits a lot more lightweight. They were much quicker to go on and off. Made them out of more forgiving materials. And we even had lighter stunt suits.
They're going to do mostly motion capture for the legs. They found in the first film it was much more difficult for them to get the movement they really wanted. And it just took more time. They'll be able to speed it up a little bit more this time around.
They made them lighter and better, more articulated, and ultimately making it look even cooler.
It's cumbersome, but I think it helps for us to actually feel what we would feel in those pieces. It lets you feel a bit more of what the real dynamic would be inside something like that. Though I guess, it would be more ergodynamically designed per Tony's instructions, but it still gives you a feeling that would be different than if you're just in the Lycra suit and you have some balls and tape around your arms. It's hard to really feel the volume that suit has. I was feeling the 45 pounds as well. So it's cool to get in that, and then it's really cool to get out of it. That's actually the best part of putting it on, is that you'll get to take it off.